I think we're live. So we're just going to do some double checks, make sure that things are groovy, and that we are indeed live. Sometimes we are, and we are live. Welcome. Hello. Hi, I'm Jay Cormier.
Hi, I'm Shad Miller.
Hey, guess what? Shad and I designed a game called Harrow County, the game of Gothic Conflict. And today we're here. I'm very excited to share with you Hester. Hester is the dead witch. She was buried. She was hung. She was burned. She was shot. She was buried under this tree 100 years ago. And she's dead. And the whole story of the Harrow County comic book is basically her coming back to life. That's one element of the whole story. And she's the big bad in this story, if you will. And so she is our third player. You get to play as a third player in this two-player game, and that's as a Hester. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, I'm never going to play three-player, maybe, I don't know. Remember there is a fourth player with the Fair Folk that comes packed in the box with Deluxe and the Satchel Edition. So maybe you're playing four-player, then this will still be the third player, Hester. Or you're saying, I'm never playing past two. I'm only going to play two players, so Hester is a waste of time. No, it's not. It's not a waste of time because Hester also plays as our solo game. I'm going to say when we unlock our solo mode, because we will unlock it. We will unlock it. It's positive thinking. She plays as the solo game. So, and it's really cool because she's such a puzzly, cool, different way to play that we're going to explain right now. So you do have to understand how Hester works in order to play the solo. And we will have another live stream about the solo specifically, going through how that works. But for now, let's talk about Hester. So I'm going to be sharing the screen. We're going to go into this. And let's check it out. So Hester always plays third. Now, it is a three-player game, but she's third player. So these two characters. Oh, look, who's this? Who do we got here?
Who is that?
Who's this? Priscilla. We just unlocked her. Hi, Priscilla. We'll review her later, but she places these goad tokens on the board, and if they're still there at the end of the round, you can just spawn units on those. That's so great. It's as if we're goading new Haints to come to those spaces. Really cool. Really cool. So, but Hester always plays third. So you play whatever order here. Currently, looks like Priscilla has the start player token, so they take a turn, and then Kane takes a turn, and then Hester takes a turn, and that's how it goes. So for setup, there's nothing new or different for setup except for Hester needs her board. So for her board, she has these root tokens, and they don't look like this. I'll come back and show you what they look like in real life in a minute. This is just our kind of tabletop simulator route. And we had to put this weird little color arrow on them for directionality. In real life, that's very obvious which direction they're going. She gets these cubes, 6 of each of these cubes, 6 teal, 6 brown, 6 yellow, and 6 green. And you'll see why we have those. And this is her board, which will explain this. We put 2 bonfire tokens on each of these spaces. And we put 1 off to the side here, and then just a supply down here of the rest of them. And then you have your Hester cards. And you start, as indicated here, with 4 cards. So let's just choose 4 cards. We'll go through what they do in a minute. And that's it. There's no units. She doesn't have units, but she also has her Hester token, but that does not. She's dead, so she doesn't come out yet. She only is going to come back on the board if you can summon her and bring her back to life.
You manage it.
I know. So let's talk about what Hester does on her turn. The first thing she does is she plays roots. These are roots. These are the roots of the tree. She's buried under this tree. So these are the roots of the tree. And she plays them onto the board in a kind of like a snake-like pattern, like a path of snakes going around the board. And when she first plays them, she always, on her turn, the first thing she always does is place 2. 2. That's all. There's an extra one, and we'll get to a reason why. It's one of her actions she can choose. And what she's trying to do is she's trying to get these, most of the time, onto spaces where there are enemy Haints. Now, again, these people would have moved, so let's just give them some, like, let's say that this person moved here and here and here.
Yeah, I'll move the blue guys here.
Okay, cool. Just to give some realism here, that maybe they're like this, and there's more. We can even put more storms on the board. So it probably would have been a storm here. I don't think there would have been storm here after 1 turn. Let's say it's possible, but not if there's nothing there.
Good point.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's there. So now, when I first start as Hester, I have to come from off the board onto the board, and I look at where I want to go, and I think, you know what? I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go here, and so my first one starts like this: a little bit off the board, a little bit on the board, and I take a second one, and I can go from this hex. I can go to any other hex. I can go to this way. As you can see, I'm kind of making a path. I go down here. But because I'm also trying to get to the blue side, I'm going to start making my way over here and do those two.
Mm-hmm.
So what I get now, after doing that, the next thing you get is you get a cube of each color where you have a hex, where you have a root on a hex. So I'm going to get a green cube and a brown cube. Okay. So I'm going to take a green cube and a brown cube. All right. Green cube, brown cube. Awesome. Now I have an option. I have one action. You start the game. This is to indicate your actions. I have one action off to the side, and I can put it on any of these things that I want to do. And I only get one. I'm going to get more actions as I create bonfires, which we obviously haven't talked about yet. So, and this is trying to remind you here, each bonfire equals one action. That's placed right here. Cool. So what are the possibilities? I could do this, and this says play a card. If I put it here, I play a card. So let's look at the 4 cards we have right now. They might. I'll get into what they are in a minute, because I think you need to understand more of how all the other things work before you understand all the card intricacies. So, but you can play a card. So let's come back to that in a minute. This one says I can play another root and gain another cube. That's why we have 3 of each color, and we don't know why you have a second color yet. But so I can take this one and I can play another one if I wanted to, and that's my turn. I can play it right here. Boom. And I get another brown cube. So that's another way for you to increase your reach and get another cube. I don't want to do that, I don't think, this turn. I'll say no. I'm not sure, actually. We'll see. Now, this one's a weird one. I can spawn an enemy haint. And when I can spawn just like normal. I can spawn a blue one here or a blue one here. I can spawn a red one here or a red one here. This is the you just can't see. And so that might immediately be like, what? Why would I want to give my opponents units? And what will happen sometimes is that it's very important for Hester to have haints of the enemies out on the board. And if one of these, say the family, kills off all the haints of the protectors in one round, and the protectors don't spawn anymore for one round, Hester is really powerless. And so she now has the ability to summon haints for either side, which can happen and might be necessary. This long, and each of these you can only do once. You can only play one card, play one extra root, or summon one unit. This here is means infinite. Infinite meaning however much you can afford. And you can do all of this however much you can afford. And this says I can spend a cube to move, and that is the symbol for a haint with a snake in it, so an infected haint. We haven't talked about how we infect haints yet, but I can move my infected haints onto the same color matching. So we'll get to, let's get to that once we infect somebody. So this is moving infected haints and also moving Hester, and we haven't even talked about her coming back, but that's what you do here. And then we have this separate section down here, and this is saying the cubes are going to go in the tree. If you're going to choose either of these two things, see how it's kind of like surrounding this green box area? This means that you can't go back to any of these actions afterwards. If you had more than one action, like later in the game, you have 2 or 3 actions. Once you do this action, one of these 2, you can't go back and do one of these. This is the last one of these are the last 2 possible actions you can do. And this says you can try to infect enemy haints. So let's actually try to do that right off the bat to show you what happens. So I'm going to try to do this. And so I will take all of these cubes. And now, do you think it'll work even with Hester's cubes?
It will.
Okay. So our wonderful Raphael, who made this cube tower for it's also then automated by saying, click this battle button. So we're going to take all the cubes, of which I have a brown and a green, 2, 3 blue and 3 red, and put them into the cube tower. And I need to get a brown cube to come out because there is a haint on a brown with one of my roots on it. And if a brown cube comes out, I can infect this fellow.
Yes.
So let's just see. I'm going to see if this works. Battle. Nope, it didn't work.
Oh, all right, that's okay.
Let's see if I can.
He probably broke it. Raphael.
We maybe broke it. Yeah. Let me see if it works this way.
And then it's on auto.
Roll and roll. Oh, it came out over here. It came out over here.
Okay.
There we go. Ah! It went back in.
Because we turned.
Oh, now I don't get it.
Yeah, but we got it before.
I did have it before. Let's just assume that we had it. This is a bit tricky because of the close it is. Here. Let's just assume.
I gave it to you.
Out there?
Yeah, it's next to it's like right here.
Yeah, it's this. We're tweaking the colors to make sure that this in Tabletop Simulator this doesn't show up super great, but it shows up good on the real board. So we got a brown. Let's assume we got brown. So I can then discard a brown back to my supply. Boom, and now I can infect this guy. So I take a snake and watch this, and I can stick it in his ear.
Boom! Oh my gosh!
How cool is that? How cool is that? Come on, what the coolest thing?
That's pretty cool.
Oh, it's so cool.
That's
Okay, I have an infected haint. Now, that is all I can do this turn. We don't know what that means yet. Nobody here knows what that means, but that's all I can do. I only get one action at the beginning of the game, and I really need infected haints. So now we go back to these guys, and these guys do their turn. Priscilla and Kane do their turn. So let's move some people around and do some stuff. She's trying to go up here, maybe.
Put somebody in the table.
You swap these. This should be over here, and this should be over here.
Okay. Oh shit.
Let's put it over here because we just started moving that way. I'm not really showing you how the family of the protector works. We're just trying to simulate some movement so we can. Yeah. Using the brambles. Okay, great. Maybe got all the way up here so that he got a token. Sure.
Yeah.
Put his person here and this person here. I got that token. All right, whatever. This is just simulate some movement. Now it's back to Hester's turn again. Hester starts her turn by taking this off. And we're going to place tokens again. And how we do it, this is why we have two colors. This is to indicate that you can't circle back onto the same paths that the same hexes that you are on for the previous turn. So, and this have directionality too. If we actually color these, we're going to fix this. This has nothing to do with the, no, that didn't work.
They do have color.
Because
they're tinted.
I didn't press apply. There we go. Oh.
Uh-oh, what did I do? Turned one of them around.
We both pressed at the same time, I think.
Okay, let me cancel. Why don't we just
copy this guy. There you go. Okay, get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got these ones. And so now I play roots from this hex here because that's where I've last played my roots. So these are connected. So again, I can go play my route off of it this way. I can go this way if I wanted to. I cannot go back into a hex I've been on. I go that way and go that way, and I can go this way. And so I think I do want to go this way because I want to try to get to that blue haint. So I'll place this one here and this one here. Right. Now, the first round, one of my roots was on the board, and then here, so I got a green and a brown. But now I get a brown, and a yellow cube. Brown, and a yellow. So brown, and a yellow. That is great. And then these, that's right, these roots come off. Now these are the only active roots. Okay, cool. So now it's back to me to think, okay, what do I want to do again? Do I want to play a card? Let's now start looking at the cards now that we understand a little bit of how that plays. I have white bowels. Move an infected haint up to 2 hexes, but it can't end its movement on or be adjacent to a hex with an opposing infected haint. You'll understand why that's important in a minute. What the goal, I should probably just say that. So what we're trying to do, what Hester is trying to do in this entire game is make bonfires, and that's how she can come back to life. How does she make bonfires? If she can get an infected haint from one side and an infected haint, let's say this is infected, from another side onto the same hex, she will make a bonfire. We'll go through that process in a minute.
Okay.
Let's do that. That's what she's trying to do. She's trying to get an infected haint from each side, and to me, that's one of the reasons why this game is so balanced as a 3-player. I often find 3-player combat games can be unbalanced because 2 players can just gang up on 1 player, and that is nigh impossible in this game. I found. Yeah, because she has to equally infect and eat both sides. So that's that's a cool thing. I don't need that now. This is a great card if each haints are far away. If blue all of a sudden was way over here and red was way over here, I might play that card to kind of have them move faster. Forced sacrifice. Place any 3 terrain cubes from supply onto this card on your turn. Please one. Oh, I think let's just get rid of this one. I think we actually changed the text of that one, so it's just not confusing because that's reach. When you infect, you can infect even if it's 1 hex away from the last route you placed. Only hurt for a moment. Place any 2 cubes. Pay any 2 cubes to infect a haint that is on the same hex as an infected haint. This is more powerful than I think people are going to understand. We'll talk about that in a minute. Training ground. Move 1 infected haint or Hester to an adjacent hex that has no units or roots. Oh, this is a great way to move people around. Oh, that's really good. But I think I really need to infect this turn.
I agree.
But I only have one yellow, so that's really, it's really yucky. That's if I don't get a yellow coming out, that's going to be a waste of a turn. So, but I really need that. I really want that guy to be infected. Let us just because I'm trying to demonstrate it, let's just assume everything works out well. So we drop all these in. Hey, yellow comes out. So let's just assume it did. I pay this, and boom, we change that. Now we've got 2 infected Haints. Wonderful.
I just really wanted to have
now the opposing players, assuming they understand how Hester works, see that this is very juicy and tasty for Hester. So they might do things to move, move them away from each other. But they can only do. They're also focused on their own goals. So like this is in the path that they want to.
They don't want to move that guy out.
They don't want. So it's really conflicting. How much do you change your turn to hurt Hester? That's also going to possibly hurt your own plan. So that's a thing you have to decide. Obviously, the stronger and closer to victory Hester gets, the more that you're going to try to stop her. At the beginning, a lot of people kind of ignore Hester, possibly to their detriment. So let's now fast forward. Let's say some things have moved around. Let's say blue did kind of get this person a little further away. And let's say red got another person here. And they're getting closer to their goal.
Right. And Kane's moving.
Sure. Let's go in his bag. Or down here, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're not caring about how they work. We're just putting some stuff on the board. It's good to note that the storms do not impact route placement. And that's literally why they're shaped like this, and like this kind of like rainbow shape is so that they can go over 2 storms if you had to. It's pretty neat. I think it's actually pretty clever. The way we started with routes was way more fiddly. It was like they had to lift things up and put it underneath. It was really, really fiddly. And so this was a really nice solution.
And it still has a nice puzzly aspect to what we wanted.
All right, so now let's go back now to our turn. So this time, let me just see my cards again. Pay no units. I can't do that one. I can't do no. I could, but I don't want to do any of those. So this turn, we're still going to start by getting some cubes. I might not get red. I'm going to go up here and get 1 red.
Okay.
Try to get one red.
And here's another brown.
Oh, I got a red. Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess I'll try to get 2 reds. Yeah, and get rid of the blacks. And I get yellow, yellow, teal. That's what I get. Yellow, yellow, teal cubes into my ready pool. This is so cool that we're using this cube tower in the tree for Hester's with all different types of cubes. It was mandatory in the design process that it's like, this is Hester. And so this is a different art. So that's why it's not lining up to those.
Oh, I'll fix it.
Sure. We figured this is Hester's tree. She's buried under here. So she has to use the tree in some way. And so we ensured that she has to. And these terrain cubes, which match the terrain colors, is really awesome. Okay, so now I have my 1 action. What am I doing? Does anybody can guess what I'm doing? I don't know if anybody's watching live or not, but can anybody guess what we have to do next?
Yeah, let me watch the chat here.
Yeah, Mark's watching.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, awesome. We only briefly went over it, but we are taking this action, which is moving Haints, infected Haints. I can only move infected Haints. It costs a cube to move an infected Haint to a terrain matching that color. So I need to get this one and this one together. And just like normal, I can't move this onto a hex where there's an uninfected Haint like that. I can't do that. They're not matching. But this guy can move here. That's fine. So that means I need a yellow and a brown. So I discard a yellow and I discard a brown.
Okay.
So I can move this person from a yellow to a brown, and boom, I've got 1 of each. Now this is when the magic happens. I take both of these people, and I get to consume them. And I'm going to put them on either side, and I'm going to put both of them on 1 of these spaces like this. They're gone. They're out of the game.
See you later.
Yeah, and I get to draw a card. So it's 1 benefit. I'll do that at the end, or this one. I'll do that at the end. That's the benefit of that. This is 1 point effectively for me, for Hester, and you'll see why. Then I take a bonfire, and I take the rightmost bonfire from my board off like this. And I put it on that spot, which is right here. And you can see there are 2 bonfire tokens there. All right, now I've got a bonfire. When I get a bonfire, I immediately get another action. Whoa, it's still my turn. Yes. And for the rest of the game, I will never have less than 2 actions. I can never lose my actions. So now that's why bonfires are so important, because they give me more actions. Because it's really a slow process at the beginning to get Hester going, but boy, does she ever get going. Because now I'll never be less than two bonfires. And now I can do anything. I could go play a card. I could play another route. I could spawn. I've done all my movement. I should clarify a few things for movement. It costs a cube to move a Haint onto the same colored, so that's why we did a yellow brown. But if you don't have that color, you can spend any 2 cubes to move a Haint onto any hex. Hester, once she gets out, which we'll talk about in a minute, costs 2 of the same colored cube to move onto that colored hex. So that's when that happens.
So we have a question from Steven about which is just, does the box turn so that there isn't always a hole on the side of the box?
Does the box? There is always a hole in the box. Yeah. Could
he turn the box so that it wouldn't have the hole exposed when he's putting it on his field?
This is always a hole right here. I think the back is just a graphic thing there was always a hole in the front of the box, and there's always a hole in the top of the box.
But he could rotate the lid, or it wouldn't fit.
When you're packing up the game, if that's what you're talking about, what I would recommend, if you don't have the satchel edition that will protect the holes nicely, if you don't have that, if you have the retail or the deluxe, I would take the lid off, rotate it, and then put it back on. So then you're going to be covering up both holes, and it won't be a gaping hole anymore. That's what I would do.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. Feel free, everybody. Ask questions as we're going. That's great. Okay, so what am I going to do now? I could try infecting, and I think I will try infecting because
get him, Jay. 2 actions.
If I look at all these reds I could infect. And we didn't say this, but you could only infect 1 Haint per hex. So if this was like this, I could only infect 1 of those Haints, and this one, if I got a teal and a yellow coming out. Or I would look at I probably should play a card.
That's tricky.
Yeah, let me see. Oh, that's a good one though. When you infect it, see the reason why this one is good. Pay any 2 cubes to infect a Haint that's on the same hex as an infected Haint. Now, I just lost my infected Haint, so it's not a good card right now. But the cool thing is, if this was infected, I could pay 2 cubes to infect this guy, and it didn't cost an action. Normally, to infect, it costs an action. This is just a card. Because we haven't talked about cards, but to play a card, it costs 1 action to play a card. So we've already done this. So if I wanted to play a card, let's play a card. Let's say, I think this moving one is good, even though we don't have one right now. So we're going to put this out. And it says, move 1 infected Haint or Hester to an adjacent hex that has no units or roots. Okay. Now that is, I don't have to activate it right now. I can activate this card every single turn for the rest of the game for free. For free. That's why cards are so powerful for Hester. She costs an action to bring it out, and it's free to play. Now, Hester does have 3 slots for cards. So once you have 3 cards out there, if you want to play another card, you have to play it over top of an already played card. So you only ever can have 3 cards active, but you can activate them all for free every turn. So that's why it's very powerful to get them out. So that would be my turn. I did that, and I played a card, and unfortunately, that's too bad. I shouldn't have. I did want to infect, but oh well. That would be my turn. And so then now what am I trying to do? So now, A, I'm motivated to move around to try to infect things, but B, because I have my storms here on a brown hex, I really want a lot of brown hexes in the battleground. So I'm very motivated to go on these brown hexes for a couple of reasons. One, next turn, if I were to play this, like this, and like this, I get a couple of brown cubes, and I'll tell you why we want brown cubes in a minute. But also, whenever you place a root entering a hex with a bonfire, you increase the bonfire's strength.
Wow, we just went to 3.
Yeah, so what does a bonfire do? It does a couple things. One, it prevents anybody from moving onto it. So Haints cannot move on. It's kind of like a barbed wire in that sense. Nobody can move onto it, so it acts as a blockade. That's fine. And 2, this is how Hester's going to come back to life through these bonfires, which we'll get to in a second. Now, what can your opponents do with these bonfires? They can attack a bonfire and try to douse it. they can attack a bonfire, and they do it just like a normal attack. They say, okay, this hex is attacking this hex. And so what's interesting here, they have 2 units, and we have effectively 3 units. So Hester gets an extra brown cube for this attack, and we put a brown cube in. And then we drop all the cubes in, and if you count up all of Hester's cubes versus all of Red's cubes, if Red has the same or more, Red will win. They have to spend 1 cube to kill each of these tokens. And if they completely kill it, they get 1 point. It has nothing to do with the Saint dial. They literally get a point. That's pretty exciting. So that's a guaranteed way to get a point. This is great, especially when your Haint dial is up to 2 or 3.
Right.
This is like, that's going to take a lot of killing to get a point. Whereas this, if you kill this, it might cost you more cubes, maybe if Hester was able to reinforce it, but you can kill it, you get a point guaranteed, and it gets rid of it. It does not, when you kill a bonfire entirely, it does not mean Hester loses an action. She still will never go below the number of actions she has. So that at least is good for her. She will always have that number of actions, which is good. So what does this mean for Hester? How did she come back to life? Well, it says on her player board here, there are 3 cubes under here. And that means if Hester gets 3 brown cubes ever to come out of this cube tower, and she has an available action, she can put it down here, and that action there is summon Hester onto a bonfire. So we would take out 3 cubes, we would put Hester right here. Whoa, look out. Look out. Now Hester has a 3 written on her as a reminder that Hester is the effective value of 3 units whenever you're trying to compare to see who has more cubes. Right now, this hex has 6 units effectively on it. 3 bonfires and 3 from a Hester. So it's very not wise to attack Hester. But as you might have remembered, when you summon Hester, that means we're down here. We can't go back up and do stuff. We can't play cards. We can't move Hester. We can't do stuff. However, activating already played cards is free at any point. So now I can move an effective Haint or Hester to an adjacent hex that has no. So I can move Hester, boom, here if I wanted to. What is Hester trying to do? Shad, you want to take us through what Hester's trying to do?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Okay, so basically, Hester has to fill up both sides of her board with either Haints from opposing sides or tokens from her opponent. So in this case, if she's summoned and she's moved, and we can pay 2 yellow.
On the next turn, the next turn, if we took an action, so
right, so we have to take. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Jay. We have to take the move Hester action.
So this whole thing is 1 action. So you can move infected Haints and move Hester all with 1 action token. So we're moving Hester.
Moving Hester, you got to pay. And let's say that, okay, so and also if we're taking this turn, we could plan to get a yellow here.
Yeah. So now what's interesting? Yeah, you have to play. You have to play tokens. Your roots in such a way that you're trying to infect Haints, but also in a way that will get you the cubes you need this turn to do what you need to do. Because Hester needs to move onto this yellow. She is trying to move onto any hex with a legend on it.
Because as soon as she does,
at the end of her action. At the end of her turn, so she does that. She maybe does something else. Maybe she infects or whatever. But at the end of her it costs her 2 yellow to move. That's right. You might remember that from this action. 2 of the same color to move on Hester onto a yellow. She moved onto yellow. Costs 2 yellow cubes.
At the end of the turn, as Jay was saying, she eats a token from the board of her opponent. So you can see she could take this. And
you take 1 out of the bag.
Take a legend token. Take the wild.
Take a wild. Let's take a wild token. Yeah, let's do that.
Wild token's always good.
And that's why. And it goes here. Boom. You get a new card. It's great. But she's literally eating them, making them weaker, and getting stronger. And that's why she has to sit between them like this setup, exactly like this setup, because blue is on this side and red is on this side. When you make a bonfire with 2 hexes, you get to decide which side you want to put it on. I decided to decide, I don't just randomly, but it does become important later on. Yeah. But that means I have to eat blue 3 times and red 3 times, and or mix it with making bonfires. Every time I make a bonfire, I get 2 more Haints that are going to go onto my scoreboard on one of these spots. And if I can get these 6 spaces filled up, Hester comes back to life and wins the game. And what's really important to understand is that even if in a round, say Priscilla, who's first, she gets a 7, And then Kane on his turn gets to 8. Kane's winning. Hester always is the third player. And if Hester gets the last token here, she comes back to life. Forget it. Everybody else loses. She wins. That trumps everything.
Yeah.
So that is scary. So you got to make sure that you got to avoid when Hester at all costs at that point. Now, you might have saw Shad took Hester off. After she eats, she has to kind of come back and kind of regroup, and you have to summon her again for the next time. And that could be Brown, or maybe by this time you have another another bonfire out. Oh, should I take over for a second? Keep going.
You got it. So yeah. So and as you can see, you still need Brown, but I can't move the case. But if it'll cost 2 cubes for Hester to come out. It's on her board. Each time you make a new bonfire, it goes down 1. When you have 3 active bonfires, then it costs 1 cube to summon Hester. And if you put the if you let's say she put the bonfire over here, now you could get either 2 green or 2 brown, right? So
right. Let me zoom in on the board. Yeah, now it's 2. Yes.
Yes.
To summon Hester, and then if you get 1 more out, it's only 1 to summon Hester. Yeah. But if Hester's out, and like this was very fortuitous that she came here and she only had to move 2 spaces to get here. Obviously,
those guys would probably be attacking that bonfire. I'll tell you what.
Attacking the bonfire, so it's hard. She can't summon. But also, if she's just out and about walking around trying to get to a legend, you can attack Hester. She's 3 units. Yeah. So in this case, Hester would get a bonus cube if Blue attacked her. But obviously, Blue could have have 4, and then Blue gets a bonus cube to attack.
Right.
And when you attack Hester successfully, yes, she goes away. But you know what the reward is, and we haven't added this to the art. The reward is you get to move your Haint dial all the way back down to 1. You attack Hester. You don't get points for her killing her.
Does the bonfire go back?
Yeah, when you douse a bonfire, it goes back on her board.
Right. And if
making it harder and more expensive to bring her out.
Yeah.
But again, Hester does not lose how many actions she has. So if she has 3 bonfires, if she made 2 bonfires, you start with 1 action. She made 2 more bonfires. She has 3 actions for the rest of the game. So she can keep getting more and more actions, which is great.
Yep.
And that is how you play Hester. I'm trying to think of some other wonky rules. We got some more questions. You want to read out some of these questions?
Yeah, so I answered a couple of them, but one that I did not answer was, do we have any hints about the big news?
Oh,
Gray Fox asked that thing.
Yeah, I'm just it's Canadian Thanksgiving. I got my my iPad currently taking care of my kids right now for this 45 minutes while we're doing this, and then I'll be making the update once they hit the bedtime. But I can announce it here because it's just a small group of people here. So and then whoever watches afterwards, I guess. But I'll be making an announcement tonight. So yeah, the announcement. Let's just talk about that. The announcement is that everybody who backs the Satchel Edition, any version of the Satchel, like with a poster or with art or whatever, the Satchel Edition is going to get both omnibuses and the Fairfolk Mini as a digital download for free. That is a $24 value for free added to the Satchel Edition. We were waiting to announce this and really show the extra value the Satchel had. And we're biting our lip going, come on. And we just had to make a deal with Dark Horse. And so, yeah, everybody who backs the Satchel Edition is going to get both omnibuses, which is like 32 issues of Harrow County plus the 4-issue mini of the Fairfolk. And that's because the expansion, obviously. So you'll have the full lore of the Harrow County to understand it, and it's amazing. So we'll probably deliver that earlier than you get the game, but not immediately. Probably once the pledge manager closes, we'll deliver it because that's when the refunds stop. So we've got to think about the logistics of people like getting a download code and then canceling their pledge or something, but they'd still have to download blah blah blah. But we'll figure all that stuff out. But I think that's pretty huge news for people that are trying to think, trying to wonder if they should get the Satchel, if that's worth it. I think it's worth it from the perspective of A, it's cool. B, I think it's actually very protective of that whole I think that's going to be a great way to store it in there so that nothing will, pull on the hole or whatever. I think that's great. And then the metal coins is so cool looking. I think that's extra value. And now $24 extra value. That's how much it would cost if you bought the digital downloads right from Dark Horse website. So that's awesome. If for those that are excited about reading the comic, I think that's I'm excited about it. Any other questions or any other comments? There's tons of cards. I guess we could have went through more cards. Hell's Half Acre. Gain a train cube of any color. The Desperate Grass. Move a root from the back to the front. You don't get any cubes. This lets you get your roots further if you're far away and you need to go. Look at that art. Mud in Your Eye. Whichever opponent has fewer train cubes gains 1 cube, and you gain a train cube of any color. Oh, that's great. Wild Tangle. Trade any 1 train cube for another train cube. Oh, so if you need a certain color, that's a great one. And I think there's 1 or 2 more that maybe. I'm not sure. I think there is. Maybe there's some not unlocked yet. From Stretch Goals.
So I could, if you wanted, I could ask some questions I anticipate people asking.
Yes.
Okay. So
and Brian in the comments. And Brian in the comments was saying that there's a difference between her, coming on, hitting the board, and her coming back to life. Yeah, when you summon her, she's summoned, but she is not at full strength. She needs, just like in the comics, she needs to eat the other legends to gain all her power back and come back to life fully powered. So I just love that thematically. I think that's wonderful. But yes, go ahead, Sean.
And the taking of the tokens is just like, it's painful. And it's, still keeps the balance and everything.
Yeah, but she's making them weaker as she takes this off, and you know what I mean? And she's getting stronger herself. It's like so thematically great.
A question I often get when I'm showing people Hester is, can you keep making bonfires after you've made these 3?
You cannot. Yeah. Once this is out. But if they douse one, if they kill one, it goes back here.
And then another one is, do you have... Yeah, go ahead. Once this one comes off. That's right. Did I stop you? I'm sorry.
That's it. Yeah.
And then, the other thing is, do you need, and knowing that, that you do have to eat legends in order to win, except that it could get doused. So if you keep getting your bonfires doused, you can get enough hate.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance. Like if you never douse anything, then all they can make, Hester can make 3 bonfires, 1, 2, 3. Then she needs to eat, and it's hard for Hester to eat because it costs a lot of cubes for her to move around. 2 cubes, unless she has powers like cards like this, like Tramping Ground. Right. Move Hester to an adjacent that has no units or roots. I mean, there's some limitations there, but she can't move onto a legend to eat them, but she can move next to it, et cetera, et cetera. So it starts getting expensive for her to move around. Yeah, but she starts getting more and more tokens. It's interesting. It's been wonderful to play with her, and it's so interesting because we've wanted to make a 3rd player where it didn't upset the balance we already had of this 2-player game. And so Priscilla and Kane right now, they're still going around picking up tokens. They're still fighting each other. They're still trying to get on the brambles, all at the same time while Hester's mucking around and trying to infect them and do her bidding. So this just adds a new wrinkle for these 2 players as they're trying to also keep in mind Hester and avoid her and keep trying to do their objectives, making storms, connecting to this, and escorting their townsfolk back. It becomes a real interesting additional layer of strategy once you add the 3rd player. And I think later this week we're going to dive into the Fairfolk, and we'll see how awesome that is to add a Fairfolk as a 3rd or a 4th player, which is wild. And if you missed the beginning, Hester is who we use as our solo gameplay, which we'll also dive into in a separate live stream. So you'll be able to see how she works. So imagine this puzzle, and we have an automata system which moves the red and blue haints and legends around the board in a very clever way. And so Hester has the puzzle of like, which cubes do I need, and where am I going to put my bonfires, and how all this kind of stuff. And it becomes really, really challenging. And we have a nice difficulty level setting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've got some really excited people talking about the great news you just said, and then
I see that. Yeah, nice.
And I think one thing I love about Hester and the Fairfolk is that you really it helps so much to understand playing the 1v1, and that makes it a richer experience for for all the players that you have.
It is the big hiccup. Now I'll tell you a nice thing about this. And so the big hiccup is if you bought this game and took it home and go, let's play 3 players right now out of the box. I think that's going to be challenging. Much like I think to a similar degree, much like Brute is challenging the first time you play. A lot of things to juggle and think about. And Hester is trying to understand her rules, but she really needs to understand and what these players are doing to anticipate where they're going to be moving, so that she can put her roots in the right way. And so I think Hester really needs to understand how these player works. I think more so the Fairfolk really needs to understand how all 3 work if she plays, because how they work, which we'll get into, is even more interesting from that perspective. But while you might not be able to do that out of the box, that's one of the reasons why we made Hester the solo player, so that you can play Hester and learn Hester, and then invite 2 friends over to play 2-player, and you can add Hester in as a 3rd player because you understand.
I think you have a good understanding. Yeah, be ready to play as Hester after the solo.
Yeah. Awesome. That's it. I think that's it. Man, it feels like we're missing something on Hester, but I think that's it. So exciting. It's so bonkers. Like I don't know any other game that has this kind of I mean, I guess Root in that sense, but this kind of asymmetry. It's been asymmetric up till now with Cammy and Protectors and Family playing differently and using tokens differently. But they're all doing the same thing. They're all going around collecting tokens. They're fighting each other, trying to get the brambles. They're all doing similar things with a couple and obviously different objectives. Asymmetric. This is now bonkers asymmetric. Like I don't, you know what I mean? It's so different. And how thematic is this? She's playing as the roots of the tree. She's buried under this tree.
Coming back to life. That was a huge
really
feeling of victory when we got that mechanic working well.
Yeah. And I can show, I might as well show this in real life, what the actual root tokens is. If you saw a playthrough, you might have seen it, but they look like this. Really kind of cool. And it gives them some directionality because this is kind of like pointing towards, this is where it's coming from, and it's going this way. And then the black one as well.
Yeah.
So I think that looks really cool.
I like those a lot.
Yeah. Mark had another one. I'll be able to gift those to someone that hasn't read the series yet. That's great. Yeah, because Mark's read the series, that's for sure. That's such a cool and creepy mechanic, having Hester eat the legends, right? It's so great.
Yeah.
So great. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I believe we have another one tomorrow. What is tomorrow's one? Off the top of my head. Is it the Fairfolk?
I think it is.
Ooh. I'm trying to find it. The Fairfolks tomorrow. Whoa. I'm excited. So we do get to go. So we'll understand them as a 3rd or 4th player. It's great. There's even more cool things we're going to announce and an update tonight. For example, we just got announced as one of the projects we love from Kickstarter. That should be a huge boon for us for more eyeballs on this project. So lots of good things coming. Expect a really exciting, passionate update later tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you later. See you around. Ask any questions in the comments on Facebook, on Facebook, on Kickstarter page if you have any more questions.